Vainglorians, this is Gadienton from Broken Myth. Update 1.17 is a huge update to Vainglory. We're seeing the introduction of 5 new hero skins, a public queue for the brand new game mode Battle Royale, and many significant balance changes for heroes and items that will improve the game overall. So let's get started with heroes. Finn isn't receiving any balance changes this release, but he is receiving a new look with his Bone Cruncher skin. Following in the footsteps of Netherworld Fortress, all 3 tiers are being announced simultaneously. As is typical of most skins, each tier gets progressively more awesome until the final tier where the eye candy really starts to shine. Each of Bone Cruncher Finn's abilities are decorated with a brilliant neon green, which will cause both allies and opponents alike to really kind of take notice. Killer Bunny Rona is a new limited edition skin that will only be available for 28 days. You can purchase her like any other skin, or you can collect cards to craft the skin. The good news is that you can get a card for the first win of every day, so you only need to do that for 20 days out of the 28, and you will have yourself an awesome new skin. The 5th and final skin of this release is the Tier 3 Cloud Raider box. As expected, this is definitely a lot flashier than the previous 2 tiers, and he will really stand out on a battlefield. Of particular note, his sonic zoom is pretty darn awesome. And one detail you don't want to overlook is that Box's Pulse puts headphones on opponents, making sure that they go to the grave in style. Since her release, Alpha has been struggling pretty badly in the early game, finding herself very weak by the time she reaches the Jungle Shop. To help with this, her B ability Core Charge has been reworked. There are several significant changes. First, Alpha no longer loses health per second with overload stacks, nor does she have a flat cost of 10% health per usage. Instead, the ability cost begins at 2.5% and increases 2.5% per stack, the final health cost being 10% per usage at 3 stacks. Also, the overdrive no longer removes the health cost of core overcharge, so keep that in mind when deciding which 2 abilities you're going to max. In other exciting news, the damage bonus per stack also increases weapon damage. This will make it so that Weapon Power Alpha is a much bigger threat. And lastly, to help keep this ability balanced, the base damage has been cut pretty dramatically, including the crystal power ratio. As one other significant change to Alpha, Prime Directive has received a small increase to the crystal power ratio on its base damage and a larger bonus to its crystal power ratio per stack of core overload. That means if you're building a crystal alpha and hit someone with Prime Directive while fully stacked, you're going to hit like a truck. Be sure to give this a try the next time you play Alpha. In the last update, the duration of Celeste's heliogenesis stars was increased by 1 second, allowing more stars to be simultaneously on the ground at any given time, and creating more opportunities for supernovas. To enhance this further, in 1.17, the cooldown on heliogenesis has been reduced by 0.2 of a second at all ranks. Now this may seem small, but that's actually a 10% increase on how quickly she can drop stars, allowing her to more effectively poke and zone her opponents. Fortress has been tuned to have slightly lower early game power. His early game basic attack damage has been reduced by around 10%, and the bleed proc from Law of the Claw has been reduced on ranks 1 and 2. Traditionally, one of Jewel's unique characteristics is her heroic perk, Heavy Plating. This has made it so her armor is extra strong when attacking her face, but extra weak when attacking her from behind or the sides. Now, her shield defense will work the same way. More specifically, you will always do around 35% more damage when hitting her from the back and sides, whether you're using abilities or basic attacks. Kestrel is seeing a slight reduction to the power of weapon builds. Due to the large amount of armor piercing built into her Glimmer Shot, it was much harder to effectively counter a weapon Kestrel with armor, so the armor piercing is being cut in half, and the weapon ratio is seeing a slight increase. Kestrel's active camo is seeing another buff. At ranks 1 through 4, the duration is about 25% longer. However, for crystal builds, the CP ratio for this duration has been improved. This makes it much easier to attain perma-stealth, meaning that the duration on active camo is longer than the cooldown. Previous to 1.17, without any cooldown speed, it took around 200 to 275 crystal power to achieve perma-stealth. Now this can be achieved with as little as 180 crystal power, and on overdrive it can be achieved with 130 crystal power. It will now be easier than ever to sneak around and assassinate people. It seems that every update, Petal is getting a tiny bit better. Keep an eye on her because it's very possible that one of these updates, maybe this update, will cause her to secretly hit a tipping point where she will become the newest OP hero. Nevertheless, Of particular mention in Update 1.17, the weapon power amplification of Trampoline is being improved by 25% at all ranks, so definitely go ahead and give weapon power Petal a try. While Rhyme could often be accused of being easily kited by ranged heroes, he was a bit too powerful against melee heroes. So on his heroic perk Frostguard, the fortified health gain from basic attacks is being cut in half, and also the base damage and crystal ratio are also being reduced. As another notable change, his ultimate Valkyrie has been so devastating on occasion that it practically wipes out an opposing team, so it's seeing approximately a 30% damage reduction at all ranks. As a final noteworthy hero change, Skye is seeing a slight reduction in the crystal ratio for her Forward Barrage's target lock bonus. We can only hope that this takes a little bit of the edge off of her A ability. As mentioned earlier, there are several changes to items as well. The projectile speed for Fountain of Renewal and the flares have been increased. This will help the effects of these items reach their intended destinations much faster, although still not instantaneous. Lifespring's passive health regeneration has been changed as well. This used to be 1% of total health per second, and now it's 2.5% of missing health. Overall, this is a buff to the item. When you're above 60% health, the health regen is weaker than before, but when you're below 60% health, which is when it matters most, you'll find that it's much stronger. And since Fountain of Renewal inherits this health regen, you will also see an improvement there. Breaking Point's seeing a little bit of love as well, with a small increase to the amount of weapon power it provides. Last but not least, the in-game recommended items for each hero are being updated. This is a really important improvement and long overdue, particularly for times when someone is learning a new hero. Nonetheless, if you were not already aware, Broken Myth continues to curate and maintain the best and most up-to-date item builds for each hero, and we recommend you look there as well. This has been your preview for Update 1.17. As always, it is recommended you review the full update notes to obtain a complete listing of all changes. Thank you for watching, and on behalf of the folks at Broken Myth, I wish you the best in the new update.